Okay, so today we're going to take up the summary of self-unfoldment. So last week we completed verse number 20, which was sustained joy. So today we're going to go and just do a summary of whatever we've learned so far in this whole process. Okay, so if your video is off, if you can keep it on, that way I can see you. That'll be easier for me. All right. The first chapter, we're going to start from chapter 1 now. The first chapter in self-unfoldment was called freedom. And in freedom, what was the main takeaway? So I'm going to tell you, one main takeaway for each one, and then we'll just spend a few minutes expounding. The main takeaway in the first chapter was freedom. I can live freely in this world if I apply the art of right contact. This means having the right relationship with people, with objects, and with experiences. So chapter 1 talked about freedom comes with intelligent self-restraint. And it gave such a beautiful example that if we want the freedom to drive in a highway, we have to follow the laws. We have to follow the laws. We have to stay in the lane. We have to signal before we switch. We have to stay in a particular speed limit. And if we have that restraint, then we have the freedom to enjoy driving in a highway. So the same way, freedom doesn't really mean just doing whatever I want to do, or just saying whatever I want to say, or being however I want to be. True freedom is built on some kind of restraint. When we practice this sort of restraint in our lives, then we are free to live. And the 3 methods that they gave for the art of right contact, just so that we can remember. The first one was that it's not really the world that's troubling us, but it's our view of the world. So the world per se, a person per se, a thing, an object, doesn't trouble us, doesn't cause any disturbance, but it's our relationship with it. So a cell phone can be very annoying to some, but can be very useful to others. So it's not the thing, it's our relationship with it. So the first point is we have to know how to use something to get the best out of it. And I give a basic example of a phone, because really with a phone, if we know how to use it to our advantage, we really benefit. But if we lose it and just, get caught up in it, then it can be to our disadvantage. So the first point, it's not the objects, it's not the people, it's how we build or maintain that relationship. The second point in this art of right contact was when things do come and challenge us, when they, come and they're like big barriers in our lives and we don't know what to do. So he gave the beautiful example of how a diamond shines. A diamond shines brilliantly or most beautifully when it's polished against a rough surface. So many times when there are these challenges in the world, take them as a way to become better, to be brighter. I don't know if you all got to see Puja Gurudev's talk just recently, and he said, just look at the river Ganga, right? The river Ganga. And she's so mellow, and she's so silent in some places. But when there are big rocks, you can see her whole majesty like going over the rocks. When there are huge mountains, you can see her majesty turning around the base of the mountain. So that river Ganga, or Ganga Mata, which we call, she doesn't stop. Whether there's a pebble or a rock or a huge mountain, she keeps going and she keeps going and going. And it's an opportunity for us to actually see her majesty. So these obstacles in life, though they may be challenging, they have the ability to bring out the best in us if we let it. during this pandemic, though it was a very challenging situation, and it still is. We saw in some people's lives that the best creativity came out, the best music, the best poetry, the best art came out. So sometimes if we hone in those challenges, they can be a tool for bringing out the best. And the third point about the art of right contact was, he said, be grateful to feel great. Anytime we just feel down and out, the immediate thing that can make us happy, just make us bounce back right away, is gratitude. And even that simple practice of gratitude can really change our lives. Now we're going to chapter 2. Chapter 2 summary was happiness. And in this chapter, what we really saw is that everyone is looking for happiness every day. That's all we're looking for. We're just looking for those moments where we can feel peace, where we can feel happy, where we can feel like, okay, I can catch a breather, I can take a breath. So we're just looking for those moments where we can just be happy, just be okay. And what it said here is, all of our desires are actually nothing but the desire to be happy. So the desire for wealth is because I want happiness. The desires for pleasure is because I want happiness. Really, in every single desire, the desire for happiness is hidden there. It's hidden in it. And the thing is, we go outside the world searching for happiness. But this chapter clearly tells us that happiness cannot be found in objects, in experiences, in places, in people. True happiness cannot be found there. Because if it could have been found there, we would have already found it. We've spent 40, 50 years pursuing the world of objects, but we have not found true happiness. Doesn't that tell us anything? It tells us some really big thing, that it's actually not there. It's not there. And therefore, in chapter 2, it talks about slowly turning our attention within, where that true happiness lies. So, and in chapter 2, we also saw the very beautiful equation on desires. This is something important, that the desires, number of desires fulfilled over the number of desires entertained, is what is happiness. And we saw that, many people want to fulfill all the desires that they entertain. So if I have 10 desires and I entertain all of them, then I feel happy. But we can't live life like that, because desires are always going to grow. They're always going to grow, and they're going to go out of control. So the trick to realizing that happiness is to actually reduce the number of desires. Reduce the number of desires, and to slowly change those desires to the desire within. And that happens through the yogas, which we've already discussed. The third chapter now about self-unfoldment is called religion. And in this chapter, we really talked about how religion prepares the mind for true spirituality. Many people feel like, I don't need to be religious. I don't need to go to the temple. I don't need to do all of these prayers. I can just be a good person. I can just be spiritual. Why not? It is true that we can just be spiritual, but to actually really be just spiritual, we need religion. We really, really need religion, because to have that discipline to maintain spiritual poise, to have that calmness of mind to maintain spiritual poise, religion is required. And therefore in every religion, what we find in every single one, there are practices to tame the mind, to discipline the mind, whatever it may be. it's worshiping in a church or in a mosque or in a temple or in a synagogue, all of their practices are making us calm the mind, making our minds more single pointed, making our minds sharper. So those practices are essential. Those practices to make our mind subtle, make our mind sharp, make our mind sattvic. All of those practices are essential to really live a spiritual life. If I'm going to just come to spirituality without all of these practices, that spirituality is not true or is not real. So chapter 3 is really where we explored these concepts. Next, we go into chapter 4. And in chapter 4, it was all about balance. It's all about balance. And in this chapter, we particularly learned about how life is and how in life there are so many choices to make, but we never know which ones to take. And so in chapter 4, we learned that choices determine our future. They can make or break us, and therefore choose Shreyas over Preyas. Drop the lower for the higher. And sometimes we find that, how come it's so hard to make decisions? How come we cannot pick what's right? It's because we don't have a goal. But when we have a goal in life, a sense of purpose, a sense of what we are doing, and this is the purpose that overlies or underlies everything, then all of our decisions can be based on that. Is it taking me towards that goal, or is it taking me away from that goal? Of course, the most divine goal is self-realization, but not many people have that goal. So it can even just be self-development. Is this decision taking me towards self-development, to being the best version of myself, or is it taking me away from it? That's how we make decisions in life. And here we explore the formula of Shreyas, right? The smile formula. How do we know it's a right decision? Something that's Shreyas, something that's good, that good people have taught, have lived, have decided, have done. M means it benefits most versus it's something that benefits least. I is it's guided by our intellect instead of our instinct. L means it's for long term instead of short term. And E, it takes us towards evolution instead of devolution. So chapter 4 is where we really explored how different choices in life can be made and how a single choice can change our lives. A single choice of who to marry, where to live, what path to take. These choices may seem very trivial in the beginning, but they're actually huge. And so if we apply this formula of thinking correctly, we can make the right choices in life. Chapter 5 is when we got a little deeper in self-unfoldment. And chapter 5 was the BMI, or the body, mind, intellect. So, we started with freedom, and then going into happiness, going into religion, then going into choices. Chapter 5 tells us what is the highest choice we can make. The highest choice that we can make is to choose to seek the truth. To choose to seek the truth. Because one who seeks this truth is ever free, is unbound. And we will see the results of that as we review the later chapters. So, chapter 5, choose to seek the truth. And how do I do that? By thinking and analyzing and studying and learning. And when we do that, we learn the most beautiful fact is that I am not the body, mind, or intellect. I am not this gross body, which I perceive. I'm not this mind, which thinks. I'm not this intellect. I'm not even this ego, this personality, this individuality. But I am really something deeper. I am that pure consciousness and pure awareness. What we call self, we call Atman, we call Sakshi, or the witness conscious. That is my real nature. So in the 5th chapter, we really had an insight to what is the highest choice, and that is of seeking. The 6th chapter then said, okay, now I'm making my way to who I am, but don't I have to live my life? Means how do I sort of evolve to get to be the seeker? How in my daily life can I strive to be the seeker? And so chapter 6, we saw action. And here very beautifully what was brought out were the laborers, the workers, and the persons of achievement. So here in this chapter, we explored what is really success. What is really success? And success means living up to our full potential. Success is not having so much money or having name and fame or having a comfortable house. In that, Vedanta has no place. It means Vedanta doesn't even think about that. In Vedanta, success means, am I living to my full potential? Have I moved from a laborer to a worker to a person of achievement? A laborer is one who works in this world, acts in this world for the mere purpose of their self-pleasure. Their main reason is, what am I going to get from it? What am I going to gain from it? I'm doing this, but what am I going to get? What am I going to get? And that's, if you were in the Bal Vihar assembly, that actually isn't even part of why we act. That doesn't even determine why we act. But this laborer is constantly thinking, what am I going to get? What am I going to get? What am I going to get? Then we move to a worker, and the worker is thinking, you know what? I'm working, I'm acting in this world for my family, for security, and I also want to give to other people. I also want to volunteer. I also want to help out. I also want to share. And this is when one moves from a laborer to a worker, because they want to give. But even in that giving, they're giving because it makes them feel good inside. It makes them feel good. It purifies them. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. This is what we should be doing. We should be doing work. We should be acting to give others, to reach out to others, and we will feel better about ourselves. And this is wonderful. But our Shastra tells us this is not the final limit. We move then to a person of achievement. And the person of achievement is the one who's acting not because it makes them feel good or because it makes them feel better. They're acting out of their own fulfillment. They're acting it because it's their natural expression. They don't want anything from the world. They don't need anything from anybody or the world. They're just acting because that's just the way they are. They're giving because that's just the way they are. And this is where our realized masters fall under. Many of us will be in category 1 or 2. Many of us will just be mere laborers. We're really acting because we just want something for ourselves. And it's a fact. Many of us will be in between 1 and 2. We're acting for ourselves and also to help others. And many of us might be in number 2, where we're acting to give back to the world, to share, to care, to love, which is great. But slowly we have to inch our way to the category number 3. What is it that makes us move from the laborer to the worker to the person of achievement? It's only one thing, and it's having a selfless ideal. When I have a selfless ideal, a selfless goal, I can quickly move and become a person of achievement. In fact, that ideal or goal is all I really need to bring out the best in me. When a person lives without any ideal, without any sense of purpose, nothing great can come out of that person. But you give that person, even a child, an ideal, saying you can be the best, whatever, piano player. You just give that person an ideal and you see the best in them come out. And that's the trick we learned in chapter 6. So if you want more details on that, you can look in that chapter. We're going on now to chapter 7. Chapter 7 is where we talked about values. And so we are acting in this world so that we choose to seek the highest, choose to seek truth. While I am seeking truth, how must I act? We must act with a selfless ideal so that we can move from laborer to worker to person of achievement. But in acting in life, I should also keep in mind values. I can't just act the way I want to. And so in chapter 7, what's brought out is the 3 cornerstone values of Sanatana Dharma. And the 3 cornerstone values are Satyam or truthfulness, Brahmacharya or discipline, and Ahimsa or non-violence. Satyam or truthfulness means living true to my convictions. It's not only speaking the truth, but it's actually living what or who I am. So many times we are pretentious. We are one way when we are seen outside, but so different inside. Satyam means when no one's looking, when no one's there, when nobody sees what I'm doing, am I still how I am all the time? Or am I completely different? So Satya means truthfulness in who I am. That regardless of who's around me, where I am, what I'm doing, I really am true to myself. I'm not pretending to be like anybody. That is Satya. And whatever, we might not be perfect, and we are not perfect. But Satya means that there is sincerity in the path. This is how I wish to be, and I am trying to be this, and this is who I am for now. This is Satya. Instead of pretending and trying and showing something else. Brahmacharya means discipline. And discipline means, knowing how to use my sense organs and my mind. And we saw this also in the chapter of sadhana, that there are so many ways in which we can use our senses and our mind. There's so many things we can engage in. So brahmacharya means being very selective about what we engage in the world. Because whatever happens, anything or everything that we interact with, it changes the texture of our mind. It affects the texture of our mind. A movie that we see, a song that we listen to, a person that we speak to, every single thing affects our mind. And if as a seeker, the best mind for me to function would be a sattvic mind, then one has to just be selective about what they engage in and also how often they engage. That selective engagement in moderation is called brahmacharya. Ahimsa means non-violence. Non-violence in all 3 levels, not only in our actions, in our also words and in our thoughts. Ahimsa also means, non-violence, not taking out our coat and putting it anywhere, taking out our shoes and putting it anywhere, slamming the door. That's also violence, right? It's not just hitting or striking, but it's also that violence against nature. So ahimsa is violence against nature. Ahimsa is non-violence against nature. Non-violence in what we say, in how we say it. Not only what we verbally speak, but what we message on social media, what we post. and non-violence in what we think, not to wish ill of anyone, because any toxicity in my thoughts or words or deeds is toxic to me first. So therefore, ahimsa. So these are the three cornerstone values. So when we act with these values in mind. And not only that, in chapter 8, we learned also about energy. Act with efficiency. And what is efficiency? In chapter 8, we learned that efficiency is being present. The highest or the most perfect act is when we are present exactly where we are. When we are present exactly where we are, that act is perfect. It's perfect. It doesn't need anything else. That is called efficiency. And there are three robbers of our efficiency, as we saw in chapter 8. And they are regrets of the past, their anxieties of the future, and excitement in the present. Sometimes when we're in the moment, we feel regret about the past. We feel guilty. We feel agitated. We feel questioning about the past. And our energy gets drained over there. Sometimes we're anxious. Many times we're anxious about the future. What's going to happen? What will this be like? When will this happen? Why will this happen? All of these things we think with anxiety, and that robs away our efficiency. Or sometimes we get excited in the present. We say, oh my gosh, there's so many things. How am I going to do it? This is too much for me right now. I can't handle it. That robs us of efficiency. So when we are dealt with these three, past, present, future, how to deal with them? So we said with the past, just remember what the lessons are and what the inspiration is. Everything else, drop. Past is gone, it's dead, drop it. But we can always remember whatever lessons we learned, whatever inspiration we had. Remember that. For the future, it's unborn. That's what Gurudev says. It's not even born. So therefore, drop it. If we really want the future to be well, then here in the present, we can plan properly, think clearly. Thinking with anxiety is worrying, but thinking with clarity is envisioning. So when we say don't think about the future, it means don't think with anxiety about the future, but we can sit right here now and think with clarity, and that actually helps. And when there's too many things coming at us in the present, what do? Simple. Just pause. Just pause. Just take a break. Pausing, it can do so much in life. It can make such a huge difference. Just even a moment, just wait, just pause. Give the mind the time to think. And then we'll be able to deal with things right away. So this is the secret of being able to expend all of our energy in the present, is to just be exactly where we are. Then we're moving on to chapter 9 of self-unfoldment. Chapter 9 of self-unfoldment was all about the mind. What is the mind and how to deal with it? So we learned in chapter 9 very beautifully that the mind, why it thinks the way it thinks, it's because of the environment that it's in, and it's also because of its vasanas. And we learned that the mind is not the brain. It's not a gross organ. It's a subtle organ. It's a subtle organ. And it thinks the way it thinks because of these two factors. And the challenge that we have in life is that we know what we're supposed to do, but we cannot live it. So I want to live this. I know that I'm supposed to be here at this level, but right now I'm in this level. And there's a gap. There's a gap here. So my intellectual knowledge, ability, and vision is high, but my actual ability is somewhere here. And why is this gap there? Why is there this gap? This gap is there. It's because of our non-reflective thinking. We do not reflect in our life. We do not think deeply. And hence, we keep making the same mistakes. We keep doing the same things. Our lives become robotic. We don't stop. It's like non-stop. Non-stop, we're doing the same thing. Non-stop, we're saying the same things. Non-stop, we're going the same direction. We haven't stopped to reflect. And this stopping to reflect is a tragedy for us. Because only those that reflect can truly move higher in the spiritual realm. Those who don't reflect can listen to as much satsang as they want. No change will happen. Change only happens when I stop, when I think, when I reflect. That's the only time change happens. And so in chapter 9, we saw this beautiful process of introspection, where every day we take some time to, number one, just introspect. Just rewind the day and see what happened. Then we take time to detect. And I gave you a very simple method here: the bud, the rose, the thorn. Just detect. There's something I did today which I shouldn't have done. There's my thorn. Something today I did beautifully that I should do again. It's my rose. Something that I did, but it needs improvement. It's not that great. It needs a little improvement. That's my bud. And if I think like this every day, just stop, pause, analyze my life, and negate things that, I don't like about myself, and I substitute that with something better, then I will change. Because in introspection, it's not other people telling us to change. It's we ourselves telling us to change. And when we ourselves tell ourselves to change, that's very powerful. So to grow spiritually, introspection, deep reflection is a must. Otherwise, we won't move. We will be the same. And that's not what spiritual knowledge is. Okay? Then, chapter 10, we go into karma. Karma now is, okay, I'm slowly changing. But what about this world? I am so puzzled about this world. Why is it the way it is? Why is it functioning the way it is? So in karma, in chapter 10, we learned that, listen, the first thing is we are all connected. Whether we like it or not, we are connected, which means all of our karmas are connected. And the law of karma means 3 simple things. The first one is we are a product of our past actions. So wherever we are right now in this world, it is a product of our past actions collectively. Not just yours, not just mine, but collectively. And even if we didn't do anything, we can still be subject to the results of that just by being in that place. Even if, for example, even if I did not vote in the election, because I am in America, I am subject to whatever the results are. So that is the first law of karma, that we are all a product of all of our past actions. And this gives us a deep sense of acceptance and understanding why things are the way they are. The second law of karma we saw is that every day I am making my future. If now what I'm experiencing was a product of the past, then in the future, what I'll be experiencing is also a product of the past. So therefore, every day I am making my future. With every thought, with every word, with every deed, with every choice, we are making our future together. We are all making our future as a country, as a nation, as the world. And the third point about karma means then, therefore, what does it mean at present? It means that every single thing I think or I say or I do affects somebody else, because we are all connected. I have a thought. Even a simple thought affects somebody else. I say a word or I smile, that affects somebody else. I smile to one person. She smiles at 2 other people. They smile at 5 other people. Everything that we do affects so many people. So therefore, the law of karma really makes us be aware of how we are living our lives, because every little thing has impact. Every little thing can change something. That's the law of karma. We go now into chapter 11. And in chapter 11, we saw vasanas. And here we see that why is it that we are acting the way we act? So one reason I gave you in chapter 9 was this sense of, like the sense of I'm acting the way I act because I'm not reflecting enough. In chapter 11, we see another reason. Why am I not acting the way I'm supposed to act? Another reason is vasanas. So I know I'm supposed to do something. I know I'm supposed to act a certain way, but I'm not doing it. I'm just not doing it. And this is because of our vasanas. Our vasanas are deep impressions. They're deep impressions in our subconscious, unconscious mind. There are past tendencies, and they are even what we call habits. So they are there. They are impressions. They are rooted there. So let's say, even if I want to wake up every day at 4 o'clock, guess what? My vasana is like, oh, I'm going to wake up at 6. Even if I want to stop drinking coffee and I want to just, take it out from my life, guess what? My vasana is like coffee, 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 coffee. It's these vasanas that just pull us in a certain direction. Even if we want to do something else, we think we should do something else, the force of our vasanas are so incredibly strong. And so in chapter 11, we talked about really, what do we do? What do we do with these vasanas? Well, the best antidote to purify vasanas in the beginning is what we call karma yoga. It's karma yoga, the art of karma yoga. And karma yoga, we learned beautifully, consists of 3 parts. And the acronym that I gave you when we did this lesson was DIP, D-I-P. What does that mean? The first part of karma yoga is to just really dedicate our actions to something higher. So karma yoga is I am dedicating this action towards an ideal, towards something greater than me. It's not because I want to look good or I want to feel good or I'm doing it for myself. That is not karma yoga. The first step karma yoga is it's towards a greater ideal, towards a greater society. The second part of karma yoga is, while I am dedicating it to something greater outside of me or bigger outside of me, the second letter I means I'm invisible. Because what tends to happen in karma yoga is, I'm doing it. I'm doing so much social work. I'm doing so much seva. Don't you see? What are you doing? The I means we're invisible. In karma yoga, we are invisible instruments. We realize that there's some greater power that's working through us. So it's not that we are doing it. There's a team. Everybody together is working to make it happen. So it's not about who's doing it. So it's an action that is selfless, dedicated to something higher. It is being an instrument, an invisible instrument, and letting things flow through us. And finally, when we get the results, which is the P, prasad, accept it as prasad. Whatever comes, it comes. Remember, when we act in the spirit of karma yoga, the results are a bonus. And I answered this question, in assembly, when one of the children asked, why would you work hard? Why would you work hard? And I answered that hard work has nothing to do with results. Hard work is not about results. People in the path of karma yoga, they work hard because number one, they love it. And therefore, when I'm doing or engaged in action, if I love that action, if I see the beauty of that action, I will work hard. It's automatic. Nobody has to tell us to work hard. We will work hard because there is love there. Nobody has to tell you to work hard to take care of your children. Nobody has to tell you that because there is so much love for the children. The second part of karma yoga is we work hard because we know it's our dharma. We've received so much from the world, therefore we feel it's time to give back. It's our duty. It's our duty. Being a great parent is our duty. Being a good citizen is our duty. Contributing towards the community, it's our duty. It's our dharma. It's not some extra thing that we have to do. It's our dharma because we received so much from everybody. It's time to give. And therefore, this is the attitude of a karma yogi. It's not a what can I get? What can I get? It's that I've received so much, let me now give. And finally, that attitude of the karma yogi is that in this action, I'm growing so much. I'm learning so much. I'm benefiting so much. I'm unfolding so much. That already is the result. That already is what you get in karma yoga. In karma yoga, you get the enjoyment, the love of doing it. You fulfill your dharma. We fulfill our dharma. And in the process of it, we're growing. I mean, that is why someone engages in action. The results are just a byproduct. If people praise you, fine. If people don't, fine. If you get something out of it, fine. Already in the process, we've gotten so much. So people in the path of karma yoga don't work hard for the results. They work hard because they love what they do, because they know and they feel it's their dharma, and because in this whole process, they are growing so much. And in fact, in karma yoga, that they don't even call it work. That's why they call it worship. That's why it's called worship. This is the best way to exhaust those negative vasanas. This is the best way. And in this chapter, we took this up beautifully. And this also comes out in Bhagavad Gita. There's a whole chapter in karma yoga. So it's phenomenal. And so when we study that, we can go through it more. Now, I think I've said so much, so I'll stop. I meant to summarize all 20 chapters today, but I don't know what I was thinking. So I'll stop for a moment just to see if anyone has any questions. If somebody says, okay, give up desires. How are you really going to give up desires? So we had come up in my notes, I have five ways to reduce desires, right? And the first one is desire to give up bad things. So this is where we desire to give up that which is prohibited, what we call prohibited karma. What we call karma, that it harms us. It harms us, it's toxic, it just causes us to be not our best selves. So the first one is desire to give up what's bad, like cheating, like stealing, like hurting, harming, all of that. The first is desire to give that. The second is desire to be good, desire to be a good person. I want to live a good, decent life. I want to be able to have a good family, a good home, a good job, all of that. I want to at least be good. Desire to be good. The third one then should be the desire to be selfless. Okay, so now I have sort of put my life together, living a pretty decent life. I have a nice environment around me. Now let me also give more, give back to the society. Let me expand. Let me do whatever I can for others, not just myself. Then comes, after doing a lot of selfless work, after expanding, we kind of ask ourselves, now what now? What can I do? So then comes the fourth process, which is desire to be divine. Then one says, I want to seek deeper. I want to do something deeper. And the desire to be divine, or desire for the divine, will come. It will come, that I want something higher. I want something concrete. I want something that is true. I want something that is real. That will come. And then finally, when that desire comes, then all other desires, they drop. And that is the fifth stage, wherein actually we become desireless, because attaining the divine, we become desireless. So this is how one sort of evolves through the steps. So the first step is desire to give up the bad things, prohibited things, not nice things, give them up. Second step, desire to be good, a decent life. Third step, desire to be selfless, to give more. The fourth step is desire to be divine, desire for that divine. And the fifth is where we become desireless. Now, the thing with this is, nobody can make us desire. Desire is not something we can force you to do. We can say, oh, you better desire to be selfish. Oh, desire to have God. It's something that happens. And it happens the more we are in satsang, the more we are surrounded by goodness, good company, by this study of scriptures, the more that desire will come. It's like when you get into a relationship, right? You might like that person a little bit, but the more you spend time with that person, you say, wow, I really want to be with this person. I really want to be with this person. And your desire for this person grows. And then you spend more and more time with this person. You say, well, I really want to marry with this. I really want to marry this person. I really want to spend the rest of my life with this person. Then that happens. So when we spend time in good company, that desire becomes stronger.